Welcome, everybody. Please silence your phones. Jeff, the person next to you, will you remind them? Silence the phone.
Turn out, silence your phone.
The other way. Oh, yes. Oh my gosh. So hello, everybody. My name is Teresa Russell. I am president of the Dublin Worthington Rotary Club, and I'm here to welcome you all to the 19th meeting of the 49th year of our club. And today's invocation and pledge is going to be offered by our very favorite guest, Tom Rice.
Our head. Dear Lord, bless us all. Watch over all of us as we travel this next week, be with family and friends. Let us be mindful of all the good you bestowed upon each of us. We give you thanks. Bless this food for which we're about to eat in your name, we pray. Amen. Amen.
Thank you. Who's got a flag? Charlie, where's your flag on your shoulder?
Under my shirt.
We'll pretend. Allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of
America and to the
Republic
republic
which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. And President-elect Jim Farmer, would you introduce any guests and visitors? He's on him.
Okay, we have some interesting guests today. First of all, somebody named Tom Rice. Would you stand and identify yourself, please? Good to have you back. And then Anna Martinez is here. Would you introduce her?
So today we have with us Anna Martinez. She is a student at Cristo Rey High School. They do a work study program, and she interns with People's Bank with us 5 days a month.
Nice.
Okay, nice to have you. And Jason Darkness is here today.
Yeah, we have Jason Darkness. He found us online. He's interested in Rotary. Fun fact, back in 2000, he was a Rotary Exchange student through the Lancaster Club. Is that right?
Wow.
So he's exploring our club today, and we're happy to have him.
Great. Anybody with announcements, make your way. We have anybody that remembered to bring glasses. We have a table in the back with the program bags on hold, and you can add to that pile if you did remember to bring your glasses for the donation.
Ready?
I'm ready. Are you ready?
Well, today is Poinsettia Day again. As of 9 o'clock this morning, we've already sold 300 plants. So we need another 300, 350 by the end of the month. Just want to let you know that there will be no Rotary meeting here on Wednesday next week. So get out there and sell during the coming 2 weeks. Don't forget, we have charitable plants. Right now, we're at 24. Typically, we get close to 100 that we distribute to the various nursing homes around the area, thanks to John Butterfield. We need volunteers on the tables. It may not be on your table, but there is a sign-up sheet for volunteers to work on December 5th when we unload the truck, and December 6th when we distribute the plants. Some of our folks do sell plants. Teresa has sold 24 plants down in Cincinnati, so she's looking for some volunteers. And I might like to make a mention here, for those of you who are thinking about who could buy these plants, let me tell you, if you go see your friendly banker, you know, Teresa has access to Patel Ohio Credit Union. I have access to the Patel Credit Unions and did sell to them. But in years past, several of you have gone to your local banker. You know, I'd like to see you loan money to you and all that stuff, but they will buy plants if you approach them nicely, so get out there and sell the plants. We'll look forward to seeing you the end of the month. Thank you.
Back again, we're in the final days of the Bourbon Round, 15 days left. I'll be honest, we're pretty far behind expectations. We've raised $17,100 so far. We've got a little ways to go, but I think we can still pull it out to turn a little profit. If you have not bought your tickets yet or found somebody to buy tickets, no point in waiting. Let's get it done. Yeah. Also, I don't know if anybody's mentioned it yet, we have a social on the 29th. And this is an important one because we're gonna have our Impact Club join us for the social. And I'm also gonna try to have our district governor come and do a brief ceremony during that social. So if you can attend our 5th Wednesday rah-rah on the 29th, it should be a great event. Thanks.
Was that time of year again, and I'm not asking for money, I'm asking for volunteers to deliver gifts to our families, our needy families in our school district. It's a program that we've participated in for over 30 years. And what we do is deliver gifts that's collected by the school. So I have a sign-up sheet, sign-up sheets, and I'll get those circulated, and you'll also be able to sign up online when we do that. Thank you very much.
So what was the date then?
The date is the 9th of December. And as we have always in the past, there's two opportunities to volunteer. One is to work on the deck, which means that you help to load like the vehicles, and the other is the actually delivery. And we ask that there's two Rotarians or two folks in the delivery, van or SUV to deliver gifts. And we ask you to begin queuing up to be loaded at 9 o'clock that morning. Okay, thank you.
Hello. Merry Christmas. Okay, if you haven't had the opportunity to pick up a tag, I'm sitting back there. We need all your support again this year. We won't be here next week. And then the rah-rah is the following week. You can bring the gifts to the rah-rah. And I'll have the boxes there to load the boxes. And also the last day to deliver them is our first Wednesday in December, excuse me. So if you haven't picked up a tag, I'm in the back, thanks.
You want them wrapped, right?
Yes, wrap gifts, so, and just put the tag that I have back there on the outside of the gifts.
Tell us about the families.
The families, one of the families, Wilson Hill, they have 5 children. And then Slate Hill has 4 children, plus 2 adults. And Centero has 1 baby, 9 months old. They even asked just for a crib mattress for the babies. And so, these families really need our help. So, they're in need. And we'll give them a Christmas to remember, and that's so important. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Jim Barnhart. Are you ready to introduce? We do. I do that every time. I'd like to keep you on your toes. Our sergeant, oh, it's Mike Moulton. This will be fun.
Just prime the pot, Teresa, for getting them.
Oh, my gosh.
For trying to get rid of me and forget me. I feel really left out anyway.
Wait a minute, don't I get any grace for selling 102?
Oh, yeah. So you better grab somebody to pay $1 for you then. Where's Nick? Nick's back there. Nick can carry the pot, Teresa. Get Nick to carry that
Beautiful.
for not putting the flag out today. No one told him that, the greeter. That's part of your job there, so.
Usually already out.
Where is Steve Fair at? Steve, I saw your name in one of the publications. I couldn't remember if it was LinkedIn or something like that. What was it for? You attended a Dublin I can't remember what it's for now. Anyways, get $1 from Steve for just being this real public person and showing up and all the stuff where he tries to make us look good. Happy dollars. We have out there with happy dollars. I know you're all looking happy, but Jim doesn't look so happy. Courtney's happy. Courtney's happy. What are you happy about, Court?
Yeah,
You're happy just to be in the room, aren't you?
this isn't gonna take place until Saturday. And I'll be celebrating my birthday on Saturday.
How old are you?
How old are you?
Returning back to the early process that we used to use.
$1 a year?
Dime for every year,
Okay.
and so I'm giving you my 94 dimes today.
Put me in a place or something, but I thought we used to get $1 a year. That's okay. Who else we got? Darnell back there.
Happy birthday, Court.
All right, everybody in for a happy birthday for Court? Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Courtney. Happy birthday to you. Heck, you might as well get $1 on that whole table, Nick, just for them to get so happy to sit with the birthday boy. All right, anybody else have a happy dollar? Right over here, Mr. Katz.
I'm putting in two, anticipatory, yeah,
Anticipatory.
I don't know who this is for. This is
Okay.
for some judge in that state up north.
Okay, all right. Jerry put his Connor Sky's dollars in the pot, so we should be good for this birthday. Anybody else? Any other happy dollars? All righty. Well, let's see who can answer this question for me. This year, AAA put out expectations for the Thanksgiving holiday travel. And if anybody can come, any table here can come within 5 million, then you don't have to pay $1. You don't have any guests at all, you're paying $1. So how many number of millions of people in the United States are gonna travel 50 miles or more this holiday season? I see a hand go back up there.
40 million, 30 million. 100
Those are both wrong. That's wrong. Get those tables, get all those tables. Anybody else? If your hand doesn't go up, you gotta pay anyway. At least $1.
60 million.
You're getting closer.
70 million.
Nope, not there either. Get all those tables. 98, no, wrong. Get it, just get everybody. Get it.
57 million.
Get it. You're very close, Jerry. Too bad you had to pay your $1 already. The answer is 55.4 million Americans are gonna travel.
I was within 5 million.
You were pretty good, but you were too late. Van der White already rang the bell, so. And of those, traveling on Thanksgiving weekend, or I guess that would be almost the whole week. What are the 2 highest travel days? Anybody tell me what that is?
Day before,
Only got
day
five.
after.
Day before, day after?
Wednesday and Saturday.
Wednesday.
That's only one of 2.
Wednesday and Sunday.
Anybody else? They'll get another $1 from everybody. 2 busiest travel days are Wednesday and Thursday. Man, how easy would that have been? But that's okay. I'm making some money here. Raise your hands here. How many folks are traveling more than 50 miles to relatives for Thanksgiving? Look at that. Wow. There's an extra $1 right there. Just for you going somewhere and moving off their food, so. Get $1 from those folks. If you're staying home, you got it easy, so you get to pay $1 too. All right, I'm almost done here. How many folks in here have not signed up for either the poinsettia sale or the bourbon raffle? You have not signed up. throw a dollar in the middle of the table, Nick will come around and get it.
Probably meant to say they haven't signed up yet.
Yeah, well, is that enough? Now, I had a joke for the day, but I couldn't remember it, so I'm done. Thank you, everybody. That's the joke. Yeah, me not remembering something. I have to pay $1 for that.
People should pay free. No joke.
Okay, our speaker today was going to be here, but her spouse is homesick with COVID. So I'm going to introduce Heather, and she's going to talk to us via Zoom. With apologies to everyone, I found out just a few minutes ago that I was doing this and that I had to be shown where that was. I had no idea. Heather Grossman is president and CEO of QRT Consulting. She works with small and mid-sized medical device companies, helping them to bring new products to market. She is also a member of Task Force 1, Kentucky Search Dog Association, and Midwest Canine Search Team. She has been on 5 FEMA disaster deployments with this group for the last 2.5 years and numerous local law enforcement and emergency management requests. She's going to talk to us today about the questions she has asked most related to these deployments and her experiences in the field. Please help me welcome Heather Grossman to our podium.
Hi, everybody. How are you today? Hopefully, Steve, can you just confirm that you guys can hear me okay and that you can see my screen?
You're good.
Okay, I can barely hear you, so that's good. Okay, so I appreciate the time, and I'm super sorry that I'm not able to join all of you in person. I just thought it might be safer for all of us, being that I'm at home with Alan, that I not expose you to what I have been exposed to. I fortunately am still feeling okay. However, he is not, and so he's joining us via Zoom as well, but we'll hope for a quick recovery there. So I've talked to all of you before, well, a number of you before when I've come back from Surfside or some of the other disasters that I've been on before. But what I get asked most frequently is about a skill set that I think I work on quite frequently, and I thought might be beneficial to share in the scope of the most recent disaster that I returned from in Lahaina, Hawaii from August of this year. So I think just as by way of introduction, most of you I have met, or you know Alan, and I know he talks about me frequently. This picture here is our family. It's -1 from this picture that we've picked up since then, but we live with 7 dogs, a lot of horses, goats, and all of that. I am an animal lover and have spent most of my life around animals, riding, training horses, and training dogs. Alan and I are both firefighters in our spare time. And as mentioned previously, I run a medical device consulting business as my full-time job, but also do a lot of hobbies outside of that as well. I am a member of the Ohio Task Force 1. Ohio Task Force 1 is a group of over 200 members. All of us are volunteers to the task force. The only time that we receive compensation is on a deployment, but the task force deploys and is based in Dayton, deploys out of Dayton, Ohio. We have a sponsoring agency, it's Miami Valley, and FEMA is our parent agency that deploys us to these national disasters. And we can deploy anywhere in the continental United States. There are a couple of international teams, but Ohio is not one of them. So this picture on the far left was from Surfside, Florida. Picture here was from Hurricane Ian. This one was from the tornadoes in Kentucky. This picture here was from our deployment to the floods. And these pictures were related to the tornadoes as well. There aren't pictures here from Lahaina, Hawaii. As out of respect for the culture and the community, we were all very strictly asked not to share or to show pictures of Lahaina and the disaster that occurred there. And so it's also part of why I'm not presenting on the disaster today, because there would be very little of interest to show. So some of what I've seen recently, been to structural collapse in Surfside, Florida. And as you can see in each of these, the disaster occurs, and then after the disaster occurs, the task force has been deployed. And so there's 5 deployments here in the last 2.5 years. And then we also, from a local response perspective, both in our fire department and in search and rescue, both in Ohio and Kentucky, have been deployed on assisting to find and work through suicides, fatal fires, car accidents. And most recently in Kentucky, we were called down to work on a building collapse at a mine prep plant in Martin County, Kentucky. So I think some of the top things that I hear from people when I return are, that must be unforgettable. It's unreal, horrible. I can't imagine. You can't unsee these things. It's terrible. It's so sad. I feel sorry for you. It's inconceivable. It's horrendous, unnatural, unimaginable, disturbing, terrifying, grim. You name it. I hear a number of different things, and it's normally people's first reactions to hearing that I've been on any of these disasters and that have been away and have supported these communities. But then most people come back around and they say, thank you for your service. And, from me, I think what all of us that deploy, and what I would say is you're welcome, right? This is the way that I serve my community and I serve my country. And I'm proud to do it. And I'm proud to be able to help in this way, both nationally and domestically, in disasters and times of need for both communities and individuals that many people might not imagine being able to serve. But I always have a lingering question from most people. Some people are, I think, not willing to ask it, and others will ask it pretty openly. But people ask all the time, how can you possibly manage the stress, the work, the things you see? It must be really hard, and how can you recover from all of these things that you're seeing? And so I wanted to talk today about resilience and the practice of resilience. And I fully believe that resilience is something that people can learn and can learn to be more proficient at. And in my life, I think throughout the things that I've been exposed to and the experiences that I have had, I've learned that not only I can be resilient, but I can also work on my ability to be resilient. And so resilience is really the capacity to withstand or recover quickly from difficulties. It can be referred to as toughness, and this is just a dictionary definition, right? But it's also the ability or a substance in an object to spring back into shape or elasticity. And I think that's also a sort of interesting picture to put in your mind when you think about it from people and think about it from the perspective of our ability to be resilient. So what makes up resilience? I think resilience is made up of a number of different components, including vision, composure, reasoning, health, tenacity, and collaboration. But how I think about this is really from a purpose perspective. Those of us who do this kind of work, who are driven to do it because we believe in a mission that's greater than ourselves. We believe in something that's bigger than us and that we can contribute to that mission. We work on emotional regulation or composure. So we think hard about how we regulate our emotions, can be calm. And being calm is a critical skill set to being able to be productive, not only in the moment when everything is chaotic, but also in our ability to recover. We're proactive. We work on, reasoning. So we train for all sorts of situations and scenarios. And the situations and scenarios allow us to practice and be proactive about how to manage them and our reactions to them. And so in general, what I consider is we practice stress and we practice putting ourselves in stressful situations, and how do we recover from those stressful situations. We're persistent. So I would say that we practice realistic optimism and have grit, which to me means that we are persistent in our ability to continue to do this work because we have optimism in the reality of the situations that we're put into and our ability to support and help in those situations. So connection and support. I think our brains as people, we have a fundamental need for connection to thrive. And so being understood is part of who we are as people. I would say that few of us can achieve anything that's really meaningful alone. Our support networks within the community that we're in give us a safety net. They allow us to be there and be a net for other people who are in the same situations. And we practice and build mental toughness, both, with ourselves and with each other. And we need the support from those around us. But we also tend to focus on our sleep or our health, nutrition, sleep, exercise are fundamental or foundational elements to our success. But so is mental health and well-being. And if we don't keep track of our personal struggles and work through them, our ability to thrive in stressful environments is significantly inhibited. So I think, when we're doing the work, a lot of people ask, how do you do the work? But when you're in the work, we tend to be task oriented. We solve problems. We figure out how to make the work happen because that's our responsibility and what we're there for. We're active, engaged, mission focused, and persistent, right? And we tend to feel on our game and ready to achieve what's being asked of us. But I would tell you that immediately following deployments or right after coming back from a deployment, and I would say anybody who's been through, a disaster or a significant loss or been in a situation like this probably has a similar experience. But, we tend to feel foggy, low, potentially easily aggravated or agitated, can be forgetful, distracted, disengaged. And these are all normal responses to what your brain has experienced and your body has experienced, and could be considered, depending on the situation that you're in, could be considered trauma or could be considered part of your work and what you're choosing to take on from that perspective. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what do people who are resilient need to bounce back? Generally, space to process, people who've had similar experiences to engage with, time, our social networks. I think compassion and empathy are super important. Generally, as a volunteer and as somebody who does this work, I don't see it as a hardship. We see it as a mission, service, and an opportunity to provide for communities what they are incapable of providing for themselves. And so, we generally ask for support from our community, knowing that Ohio and the state of Ohio stands behind, and the people of Ohio stand behind the work that the task force does, and why it's important for us to be part of that and participate both as a representative of our state, but also as a representative of, who we are, is important. Support from the places we work, family, friends, and the people who went with us or have had similar experiences. But I think number one, we don't want people to feel bad for us. I don't, I think one of the harder things that I hear is, oh, I feel so bad for you. It's not something to feel bad about. It is a choice, and it's a choice I continue to make to be able to serve this way. So going a little bit further into that, what is the difference between when we relate with people with empathy? We give the other person space. Right? We give them the ability to own their own emotions and feelings. We reflect on what they're feeling and we provide safe spaces for them, even if it's a negative reflection or a negative emotion. And I think when we think about what it looks like to relate with empathy, that's the chosen direction versus when we relate with sympathy, right? We relate to somebody who's sharing with us with sympathy. We're trying to solve their problems. We move into problem solving mode. We have ideas and judgments about how the person feels and what they should do. But that not only minimizes the person's problems, but it also ignores their feelings. And so sympathy usually comes from a place within us. It's what we know we should do, but it's often telling others what they should do or feel. And so empathy really comes from your heart, and it's a feeling another's pain and sharing within that pain and human experience, so that you really understand, where people are coming from. So some examples of things that, I've heard, or things or people questions of what people have asked. And I think, the number one thing in today's world, and one of the things I enjoy talking to a bunch of folks in Rotary about this topic is that, this is part of who you are and part of what your club stands for, but it's being kind, right? We don't necessarily know about other people's experiences, even if something similar has happened to you. And I think, there's plenty of examples of this, but, people saying, oh, I've had a house fire at my house, so I know exactly what you're experiencing, when an entire town burns to the ground. You're minimizing the experience of what other people have had. Even if you've been in a similar situation, we all can relate to each other with kindness and look for what each other's experiences are, versus telling people what our experiences are and what theirs must be. So, I've heard you were, or whatever. I can't imagine what that much must be like. I saw a news story about XYZ. Lahaina, were you there? What was your experience like? What was it like for you? So there's a number of positive things, right? But going back to the direction of, things that can be hard. Feel so bad for you. I can't imagine, that must have been horrible. This kind of work must be too hard on you. Maybe you should quit. You need to get some rest. I'm sure you'll feel better. I had the same thing happen to me. I know how you'll feel. So I think one of the things is, mental health for all of us is an important topic. And it's something that we all, maybe need to think about, and is often stigmatized in our society. And I think there's a long history of first responders being considered heroes. But we are definitely people, and we don't see ourselves as being heroes. We do appreciate gratitude. Some days are good, some days are tougher. But there is a stigma within and outside of the first responder community around mental wellness, and the idea that people within the community need any emotional and or mental support is a weakness. And I raise this awareness because for those of you who know or are first responders, or have family or friends who are first responders, it's important that we're aware of the mental and emotional toll that some of this can take. Even if we continue to practice resilience, there are times when it is harder versus easier to manage being resilient and to bounce back. And so talking about the events, being honest with ourselves and others, helps us heal. But in general, there have been cases where people are bullied or made fun of, or people call them weak or are disrespectful to them because they are in the first responder community, and maybe that mentality of, needing support is not something that's traditional, but is something that's necessary. So I think just in summary, if you do engage someone in conversation, listen to what they're telling you and listen to their experiences, because you are part of what helps us to be resilient. And you are part of the community that we depend on, and the people that we depend on, to help us continue to heal and continue to be able to support and do the work that we are able to do within our community and within our national community. So this is, I'm happy to take any questions or happy to have any thoughts, but this is the end of what I wanted to chat with all of you today about. Hopefully it's been useful.
Can we get to the microphone? Thank you, Heather. Does anybody have questions? Comments? Here we go, hold on. Yeah.
Heather, when you get called up to go on these missions, how much notice do you get, and how do you deal with your full-time job at that time?
Yeah, that's a great question. The notice really depends. So for Surfside, I sat on active alert for over a week, which is really challenging, honestly, to be more on an active alert for that period of time, because you never know during that period that you're waiting when the activation will come. And once I'm activated, I basically have to get in the car and drive to Dayton. So my stuff was packed, the dog was ready to go, the food was ready to go, everything was ready to go. We also have no notice deployments, which means anytime something can happen and I will get an activation alert that our team is being activated. They ask if we're available. And if you are available, you then assume you will be rostered and sent. I think both home life and employment are challenging. I have folks in my business that are incredibly supportive of the work that I do and understand that I will give them as much notice as possible, but this is who I am and what I do. And I also have folks that can cover for me in my business to walk away. At home, when I say I'm going to go out the door, Alan takes over everything that I would normally do from a chore list perspective. And it is a lot for him to continue to work his full-time job and continue to take care of our farm and all of our animals. So I think both of those things are both challenging, but are managed by the amazing support system that we have.
Yeah, tell us about the span of time that you might be called up.
The what time? I'm sorry.
Well, just how many days are you gone?
Yeah, so yeah,
as
we can be, sorry, go ahead.
He said, go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so we can be deployed anywhere from, we generally won't go out the door for less than 2 to 3 days because that's how long it takes to drive somewhere and then turn around and drive back if we're deactivated. But deployments are, we are supposed to plan to be deployed for 21 days. Most deployments, they want to end at least the current rotation of people in 14 days. But we can be deployed without further request for 21 days. They could extend it beyond that, but most of the time they try to get the responders back home within 2 weeks. Most of the deployments that I have been on have been 7 to 12 days.
Heather, so do you take the dogs when you fly in cabin, or do they have to go underneath?
Yeah, that's a great question. Yeah, so when we went to Hawaii, I should have put some of those pictures in. When we went to Hawaii, I only had one of the canines, so I was requested as a what they call independent resource. So I didn't go with my entire task force. I went with 2 other handlers as independent canines from Ohio, and then we were paired up with task forces to do work during the day. In Lahaina, but the dog flew in cabin, which is a challenge all of its own. Melvin, for those of you who have met him, understand the amount of normal energy he has. So he had a little bit better living through pharmacology on the trip, probably for both of us. But at times he had more and less space. Sometimes he had the full floor because the row was empty. And one flight, the flight attendant came by and said he can sleep on the seat, which we don't normally do or allow for obvious reasons. They sleep on the floor. And one flight I was in straight up economy with 2 other people in the row, and I was in a window seat, and the flight was supposed to be 4.5 hours. And with the flight delays and everything else from Chicago to San Francisco, it ended up to be about 6.5 hours. And Melvin and I both did not move for 6.5 hours. He was in the space under my feet where your backpack or your purse would normally fit. He took up all of that space and then my foot space. And the people who were sitting next to me, I said, I'm sorry, there's a dog here. Do you have any issues? Do you need anything from me? And they said, dog's fine. Dog doesn't touch me. So Melvin had to stay in that spot for the entire duration, which both of us were pretty stiff when we got up.
pay your time and your expenses from FEMA or the government, or how's that?
Yeah, so we are employed by the task force, which is through the Miami Valley Alliance, which is our sponsoring agency. When we go on a FEMA deployment, the task force reimburses those of us who are independent. So the task force works by having agreements with sponsoring agencies, which are usually fire departments that work with the task force to supply personnel for a variety of the different roles and responsibilities on the team. And then some of us are independent, meaning our employer does not sponsor our participation in the task force. And the task force is responsible for paying us. And then FEMA reimburses the task force for the expenses related to that deployment specifically based on federal rates and requirements. And so everything is under the government or federal rate from a FEMA perspective. But we are directly reimbursed and our checks come through the task force.
Heather, how many people do what you do? Like, how do you get deployed to Lanai or some of these places? Like, how many other Heathers are out there? Obviously, no other Heathers, but you know,
So the task force itself has, I think we're at about 280 members, but we fill a variety of different positions. And so there's rescue specialists and rescue team personnel, which make up the majority of the people who get deployed. There's search specialists or technical search specialists, search team managers. There's team managers for the rescue side of the house. K9 falls under the search team. And then we have logistics and planning. And the logistics and planning folks are responsible for managing the entire cache of the task force and deployment of the cache with the task force. The planning folks are responsible for planning the area and making plans around hoteling and food and all of the things related to managing the folks on a deployment. When the team goes out the door, the type 1 resource, which is the largest group that we would go out the door with, it's 84 people. Most of those, again, are rescue. The rest of them are the other groups. There's also, we obviously have medical that comes with us. We bring a doctor, an emergency medical doctor. We bring a number of med specs, which are generally paramedics. And then we bring structural engineers with us as well. If the team goes out the door as a type 3, which is the other sort of general thing that happens, it's half of the type 1 response. The number of canines that go out the door, so the team is required on a type 1 response to take 4 live find canines, so dogs that would find live people. On a type 3, it's 2. There is no requirement from FEMA at this time for human remains detection dogs to go out the door. And it's not a resource requirement for the team. So most of the teams, so there's 28 federal teams, most of the teams at this point have at least 1 human remains detection canine. But it's not a federal requirement and there's no requirement to send them out. So.
One more question.
Did your task force participate in this accident on the east side of town yesterday?
No.
Did you?
Yeah, so I think you asked about the accidents that happened on 70.
Yes.
No, that the local response was sufficient to manage that incident.
Well, thank you very much. That is a lot of thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for being here, even though you couldn't make it into town. We appreciate it. And we have a raffle, Rose.
$27 in the car. 2733.
It's the wrong number.
George Norris, You had a good run last year. You really won a lot last year.
You're the right one?
Maybe. 2683. Jerry.
$402 in the big pot.
Come pull the wrong card, please.
Any red card?
Seven of diamonds, okay.
The red card.
All right, four-way test. All right, of the things we think, say, and do first. Second. Third. And fourth. Thank you all. Don't forget to turn in your badges and we'll see you at the Rock. I'm not sure that we have a site yet determined. Steve, where is the Rock?
Suburban and
Suburban.
down the road.
Is that the name of the place? Did you guys hear that? Suburban bar, restaurant in Lindbergh is the raw location. We'll post it on the newsletter. Thank you all. Nobody cares anymore. Yeah. Yes. It's probably.
Okay. He knows how to do it, and only you can do it, I can't.
I got it.
Oh, I thought it quickly.
Yeah.
We don't need to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead and buy your first one. There you go. Yeah, I'll-
Well, that's, but I living on these.
Yeah, I will do that What about that?
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Yeah, nice to meet you too. Yes.
You ever heard of Connect? It's notoriously left with. And we are the tech.
Oh, we are right there. To take it because I have to get the lunch count and all the month end things, so somehow. It's easier when I have it, but